Welcome everyone. Today we focus on aggregate demand and aggregate supply curve shifts. Understanding these shifts it helps us analyze real-world economic events such as recessions, inflation, economic expansions, supply disruptions, and policy changes. To begin with, it is important to distinguish between a movement along a curve and a shift of the curve. A movement along a curve happens when the price levels changes and nothing else changes in the economy. In that case, the economy simply slides up or down the existing aggregate demand or aggregate supply curve. By contrast, a shift of the curve occurs when the underlying economic conditions change. In this situation, the curve itself moves to the left or the right. This shift reflects the idea that the behavior of the entire economy has changed, perhaps because spending increased or production capacity changed. The shift shows that at every possible price level, total demand or total supply is now different from before. Aggregate supply can shift for several reasons. The most powerful long-run force behind aggregate supply shifts is productivity growth. When workers become more productive or when technology improves, firms can produce more output at every price level. This causes the aggregate supply curve to shift to the right. On the other hand, changes in input prices, such as higher wages, higher energy costs, or more expensive raw materials, make production more costly. When production becomes more expensive, the short-run aggregate supply curve shifts to the left, reducing output and raising inflation, a combination often referred to as stagflation. In contrast, if input costs fall, the short-run AS curve shifts to the right because firms can produce more at lower cost. Agri supply also shifts when unexpected supply shocks occur. Events such as natural disasters, freezes in agricultural regions, wars, or pandemics can suddenly reduce the availability of labor or critical resources, pushing the AS curve leftward. In the graph, we begin at the original equilibrium where the aggregate demand curve intersects short-run aggregate supply curve 0. When productivity rises, firms are able to produce more output using the same inputs. So the short-run aggregate supply curve shifts to the right, first from SRAS 0 to SRAS 1, and then from SRAS 1 to SRAS 2. Each rightward shift creates a new equilibrium where output is higher and the price level is lower. This pattern shows that the productivity growth tends to increase real GDP while reducing inflationary pressure. It's the most important long-run driver of economic improvement because it enables higher living standards without causing higher prices. In this graph, we see how higher input prices affect the economy. When the price of essential inputs such as fuel, wages, or raw material rises, producing goods and services becomes more expensive. Because of these higher costs, firms reduce the amount of output they're willing to produce at the every price level, and the short-run aggregate supply curve shifts to the left from SRAS 0 to SRAS 1. The new equilibrium shows two important changes: output falls and the price level rises. This combination lower the real GDP and high unemployment rates together with rising prices is known as stagflation. It's one of the most challenging situations for policymakers because effort to reduce inflation may worsen unemployment, while efforts to increase output may worsen the inflation. Aggregate demand depends on the four components of total spending: consumption, investment, government spending, and net export. When any of these components increases, the aggregate demand curves shift to the right, meaning that at every price level, total spending in the economy is now higher. Conversely, if any component decreases, the aggregate demand curve shifts to the left. A shift of the aggregate demand curve tells us that the overall level of spending in the economy has changed independently of the price level. This table shows the main reasons why aggregate demand can either decrease or increase. On the left side are the situations that cause aggregate demand to fall, things that reduce spending in economy. These include higher taxes, lower income, higher interest rate, reduced confidence, and lower foreign demand. All of these make household firms or foreign buyers spend less. On the right side are the opposite conditions, which cause aggregate demand to rise. These include tax cuts, higher income, lower interest rates, stronger confidence, more government spending, and increased foreign demand. All of these increase total spending in the economy. In short, anything that makes consumer, businessman, the, the government, or foreign buyers spend less shifts aggregate demand left, and anything that makes them spend more shifts aggregate demand right. Okay, let's talk about how confidence affects aggregate demand. When consumers feel optimistic about the future, they are more willing to spend, so consumption rises and aggregate demand shifts to the right. The same idea applies to businesses. If firms believe the future will be profitable, they increase the investment spending because they expect strong returns. On the other hand, if confidence drops, either among consumers or businesses, people become more cautious, cut back on spending, delay major purchase, and reduce investment. This decline in spending causes aggregate demand to shift to the left. In the graph, total spending increases because consumers or businesses feel more confident about the future. When households become optimistic, they're more willing to buy goods, especially big ticket items. When firms anticipate stronger economic conditions, they expand investment in new factories, technology, or machines. This increased spending shifted the aggregate demand to right from 80 to 81. At the new equilibrium, both real GDP and the price level are higher, meaning the economy expands and the inflation rises. The new equilibrium is also closer to potential GDP, which indicates a stronger economy. A similar rightward shift would occur if the government increases spending or tax cut in a way that stimulated additional consumptions. In this graph, the opposite situation occurs when consumer or business confidence falls, perhaps because people fear a recession, job loss, or global uncertainty, spending declines. Consumers postpone major purchases and firms reduce investment in new projects. This reduction in total spending shifts the AD curve leftward from 80 to 81. The new equilibrium has a lower level of a real GDP and a lower price level. The economy moves further below the potential GDP, deepening the recessionary gap. Leftward shifts can also result from reduced government spending or higher taxes, both of which, reduce the amount of money circulating in the economy. Thank you for watching.